Welcome. In this section, we would understand some of the important developments which have been cited in Down to Earth. The first is using solar energy for households. Now, the used plastic paint buckets have been used as a container collected by students, and here is where the solar powered lamps have been created for promoting renewable energy. Now, many of them have been sold, and this is a really good initiative. The next is the COP28. We are entering into the final week of it, understanding the historical losses, the damage that have been created, and there has been a blend of positivism as well as a need for urgency to address the issues of climate finance and global stocktake, which is really important to understand. So several reports have been released which shows that 2023 has been one of the warmest years on record. The earth is already 1.4 degrees warmer than the pre-industrial level. The warming has intensified in the last 10 months, and this has brought extreme weather events, specifically in the regions of Antarctica, which has a huge consequence on the remaining part of the globe as well. And a drought map has been released which talks about the nations and the drought level, the drought stricken regions. The next is adaptations under the global stocktake. So under the global goal on adaptation, there have been several negotiations talking about the capacity, the resilience, and reducing the vulnerability. Also, we are focusing on various factors like principle of common but differentiated responsibility and respective capabilities, adaptation finance, understanding the final assessments that are taking place, and the paragraph 35 talks about the phase out of fossil fuel, moving into an era of renewable sources of energy, understanding the how we can switch from the fossil fuel to renewable sources of energy and the mitigation under the same. Now, climate finance negotiations are really important, and those have been decided for the COP29 to be held, and there have been various discussions understanding the time frame, transparency, inclusivity, and the scope for the same. The next is the odd flower. Now, here we are talking about onion flower stalk, which is one of the very unique ones, and it is known for being a little pungent than the others. The idea is the buds are usually discarded because they don't have a distinct flavor, but they can be infused with oil and vinegar and be used to create a condiment. Now, there has been various theories on the origin. The term pyaz or onion comes from a Persian language. The Ilium species have been found in the Mediterranean region in Iran and Afghanistan, which is the primary center. Onion bulbs have been found in the carvings of the pyramid walls in the 3rd and the 4th century. Also, Egypt used to worship onion as it talks about eternality of life. There have been discovery of small onions in the mummy of King Ramesses IV. They are also found in the tomb of Egyptian boy Utkhaman. Greek athletes actually used the bulbs in large quantity for improving the power. Also, Romans consumed it, specifically the gladiators. They rubbed it on their muscles for toning. There has been an immense relation of two important bioactive compounds which are found in onion. One is camphorol, which is antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, antimicrobial, cardiovascular, and neuroprotective. The next is isorhamnetin glucosides, which protects the cardiovascular cells against inflammation, oxidative damage, and apostasis. This has been seen that the seeds of onion are really important for removing the lead, copper, and cadmium rather than zinc and chromium. So it's really seen as one which can remove heavy metals from the water. Now, UNICEF in 23 has talked about the extreme poverty, and it is believed that every second extreme individual in the world is a child which survives on less than $2 a day, which is nearly 333 million children under the age of 18 years, which are growing up in extreme poverty. Now, how they can escape it, why they have to live in extreme poverty are some of the questions. And then the extreme poverty is highly prevalent in the regions of Asia and Africa. Sub-Saharan Africa accounts for 75% of the world's population, which is living in extreme poverty. And we are talking about the rate which is growing, and the UNICEF figures which are really high, right? The next is The data reports on child poverty talks about a universal development challenge, and this talks about a high prevalence of child poverty. Nearly 69 billion children are living in extreme poverty in these countries, and many of them are among the richest countries like United States. This poverty is a continuation because there is less chance for access to education, lack of skill development, and fewer people are able to live as compared to the wealthier population. So there is high amount of malnutrition, lack of safe drinking water, and sanitation issues. The next is lantana. Lantana was introduced during 1800 by the Britishers into India. It's not native to India. It was brought as an ornamental plant during 1880s, but however lantana has spread widely, and now it is a threat to the local crops which are grown. Even the local crops of mahua, amla are being affected because of the percolation of lantana. It grows extensively, and removal of it is an extremely labor intensive process because it has deep roots which go into the soil, and 40% of the forest are nearly occupied by lantana now. The next is understanding that even the access to the non-timber forest products, which is the haritaki, behera, amla and mahua, have become very difficult because, as we said, 40% of the land is being occupied by lantana, and the fodder availability has increased by 8 times as compared to non-managed lands. We have seen that farmers have surveyed the lands for getting the forest produce for mahua and tendu leaves from the restored areas. There has been reduction in the crop loss that has been seen. Also, we are trying to have processes for weeding out lantana, which is really important. Now, villages have set up committees. For example, a fine of 5,000 has been imposed by Siddha Baba committee for felling the trees in a land which now resembles forest. So there have been local efforts which have been done. Environmental activists have been working with the forest dwellers to utilize this lantana. For example, lantana is now used for making furnitures, and nearly 5,000 people from Madhya Pradesh are involved with it. Now, aspartame. Aspartame is a sugar substitute. Whenever you see sugar free, diet sugar, low calorie, those are, rather than sugar, a substitute of sugar which is considered as aspartame. Now, this is considered as a group 2B agent under the US FDA classification, and that is possible carcinogenic in nature. Now, in contrast to this, we say that sugar is a better concentrate. Now, if we talk about aspartame, it increases the risk for malignant tumors in multiple organs in rat and mice. Similarly, has been seen for saccharin, which has been related to bladder tumors. There have been changes in the potassium, increased cancer because of sulfame potassium. So all these are artificial sweeteners. There are certain natural sweeteners like stivol, monk fruit. However, limited risks have been studied based on that. But if we look onto the various group agents, group 1, 127 agents that are carcinogenic, group 2A, 95 of them which are possibly carcinogenic, group 2B, 323 which are possibly carcinogenic, and aspartame, heavy metal lead is some of those. And then in the group 3 there are nearly 500 agents which are non-classifiable as carcinogens, but these includes mercury, coffee, paracetamol, crude oil. Now there has been various studies talking about declaring aspartame carcinogenic or non-carcinogenic. However, as we have said, we have seen hepatocellular carcinoma cases in the cases of rat and mice because of aspartame. Diabetics who use artificial sweeteners have 1.13 times more likely to develop possibility of liver cancer. Similarly is the case for pancreatic cancer. There have been various reports on the same which has been released. Now, India's consumption of sugar substitutes have increased significantly in the urban area by 38%, which is a very high figure, and therefore it's a need of the hour to understand and take safety measures before the sale of sugar substitutes into India. So Food Safety and Standard Act 2006 actually looks into it. The next is understanding the non-sugar sweeteners. Now these are under the brand name Splenda, which is the sucralose which is sold across the globe, and it is one of the top selling sugar substitutes in United States. S6A is again one of the products that sucralose breaks into, and this leads to genotoxicity, which is affecting the genetic makeup. It has an important role in increasing the blood sugar level, affecting the insulin levels, cancer and cardiovascular threat. The next is the global warming and the increase in the global warming. Now, ships have been cited responsible for it because of higher amount of sulfur dioxide being released. Now, the phytoplanktons which are present in the ocean release dimethyl sulfur, which actually emits into the form of sulfur dioxide when the ships passes by, and because of that there is induced cloud formation of sulfur aerosols. Now, this leads to respiratory, cardiovascular and lung diseases and is highly threatful to crop, forest and aquatic species. There has been increase in the number of cases because of it, and this increase has also led to certain important cases which we need to understand. Now, another important case is radioactive forcing. Now, radioactive forcing understands the energy imbalance between the incoming and the outgoing energy, and that energy trap is actually in the form of greenhouse gas or in the form of carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide, which are agents for greenhouse gases. Now, compared to these, we need to understand there has to be important substitution, and understanding the impact has to be really important. So, colder cloud formation, the soothing effects are all related to the formation. The next is sponge farming. Now, sponge farming, similar to the seaweed farming, sponge farming is one of the important concepts. Women in Zanzibar, in regions of Africa, have been involved with sponge farming, and this is considered as a climate resilient way, and it has a high regenerative capabilities. Seaweed can grow within 45 days, which has a very small period, and green seaweeds are edible in nature. Similarly, sponges are the next that we are trying to discover, and there are various cleanings which are required. Sponge farms are produced parallel to one another, and they are seen in different stages. Once obtained, we can sell them to hotels, to tourists, and they could be used for a variety of purposes. The next is green equations. We have traditional various indicators which indicate the GDP measure in terms of growth and output, but we do have another measure which is known as gross environmental product, which aims to assess the growth and the health of natural resources with positive and negative impact, and this was introduced in 2011 by Himalayan Environmental Studies and Conservation Organization, right? The next is understanding. For the same purpose, we understand the soil, the water assessment, the air quality, based on which we give the various gross environmental product growth formula, right? So this indicates forest plus soil plus air plus water. For the forest, this is the formula that's there. For the water, again, it's the water harvested minus the water harvested of the reservoir divided by the water quality index and the water quality index, right? So the same goes with air quality. So it's 1 minus the air quality index C by Ry and divided by the air quality index Ry. So these references actually help us to understand the air quality, and these values vary from 0 to 500 for air quality. Similarly, for water assessment, we have seen the various structures, the recharge bodies. We also understand the pH, the conductivity, and the final indices that are taken into account. The next is air pollution and childhood diseases. Now, children whose organs are still underdeveloped are found to be more vulnerable to air pollution. That is, the children in the mother's womb are more prone to these kind of issues, and children cancer, childhood cancer is another thing that we are likely worried about, right? So there are ultrafine particles and polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons which enter into the blood stream of the mother and pass to the placenta to the child, generating oxidative stress, which may lead to diseases like ADHD, which is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. It can also lead to long lasting impact on gene expression, DNA, and there has been a study which shows that while the Beijing Olympics were held, prior and post to that, the weight of the children was 23 grams higher because the air pollution levels in the atmosphere reduced drastically. So air pollution does have an harmful impact and has transgenerational effect. So to protect them is again really important. Extreme weather events have been seen in various states and have been witnessed across the region. So understanding that is again important. Now India has seen a very high proportion of malaria cases, accounts for 66% of the total malaria cases as per the World Malaria Report, which is highest within the country in Southeast Asia. However, the overall cases of vector-borne diseases have reduced by 55% since 2015. Also, we are talking about one species which has been classified as vulnerable under the IUCN classification, which is the Chausinga four-horned antelope. So those are found in the Nandanvan Jungle Safari in Navrayapur in Chhattisgarh area. So those were some of the important topics that we have discussed for today. Stay tuned for more updates, and we would be covering down to earth on a regular basis. The handouts for the same are available on Examrace current affairs section, and also the CSET preparatory material is available there. So you can check out for more information. Thanks.